I think sometimes I tend to look at populism and I'm like, it's supposed to be like the cornerstone of what democracy is about, right? Democracy is like gotten from two words, demo and kratos, like power to the people.
Yeah.
So populism also is pretty much emphasizing that rhetoric of what actual democracy is supposed to be like. There has to be power back to the people. Right. So, and maybe this will lead to like the examination of why populist trends are starting to happen all over the world, right?
And I think I want to mention something about it that, like, yes, populism is also a part of democracy. It's not illegal, like it's an actual, because democracy is the one that like allows even for populist movement to happen. In other forms of government, they have to take it by force. Like we saw in the French Revolution, in America, like they actually to fight. But in democracy, you can have it. The only difference between populism and core liberal democracy is in the institutions. And I think I've mentioned it over and over again. Because institutions means that like you are codifying things into law and you are saying that, for example, liberal democracy has three tenets. One, that like we all have different views. And sometimes those different views can cause us to have conflicts. It's normal, like that's always happened in human history. And the second is that even though we have different views, we need to find common ground. So like A has to speak to B, B has to speak to C, everybody has to find a common ground. The third one is the rule of law. So now, any person or any group that tries to undermine any of those things is creating a faulty foundation even for the future. Because even sometimes those populist leaders might not even go as extreme as they say. Like someone can say, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. They might not do it, but the distrust that they create
to the
system creates further problems in the future. To the point where people don't even know how to even come together and align for a common good. And then we have people on the left and on the right, but we need to meet more in the middle.
Right. Yeah, that's insightful. So although what people say regarding what you just mentioned, regarding like populist agendas that are driven towards like anti-system rhetorics or anti-system ideology, people say like maybe these systems idealistically they are supposed to cater to the needs of the people. But those systems have somewhat been abused, right? Maybe by elites over periods of time. They have become like dogmatic, such that they are now even impeding rather than helping or enabling the needs or the welfare of the people. So in that kind of situation or that kind of dynamic, wouldn't you like advocate for like a shutdown of this kind of systems?
I wouldn't advocate for a shutdown of the system. Like I think now we're already moving towards to why there is an increase. Now one of the reasons why there's an increase is because like as we've seen in a lot of governments for in most places, not just in Africa, like you're having issues of corruption, of people, of politicians not being honest. So people are being distrustful of their leaders or the political system. And there's just this lack of faith that okay, this person that is leading us actually knows what he's doing and he has our best interest at heart. So people are having those feelings. So they're looking at those other people coming and saying, oh, I have your interest at heart. And who maybe by their their methodic, by the way they've probably done their countenance or maybe how they've acted before, seem to be better people. And so that's why they are actually gaining ground.
So
I want to add to that. I think what causes the rise of populism, especially when you talk about institution, is the function of the government is mainly three things technically: to provide security to the people, to provide welfare to the people, and to enforce the rule of law. That is what the government is for. But when any of these three tenets are not being enforced properly and they are being used, some elites can scare the rule of law. Laws are not applied equally to everyone. Someone may be, for instance, look in our own political climate in Nigeria. When a politician, especially ex-governors, they have corruption cases, the cases drag for so long. There's abuse of court processes. The investigations are shoddy. Eventually, the corporate or the governors or whoever it is, the political leader, ends up paying small fines.
Just a fraction of the amount.
Some of them don't even go to prison. And those things send signals to the common
Sometimes they go to prison and they come back and join the Senate.
And get back the presidential pardon. Like in recent case, under the Buhari administration, there were, I think, a northern governor, I got the presidential pardon. So those things send signals to the people that these governments are not for, there's a separate government.
Yeah.
There's government
for the people and one for the
there's
elites.
a special government for the elites.
For the elites, yeah.
When outsiders, what are people look into people that outside non-government people, workers or politicians, they look into this and they say, okay, they can use this grievance, this people's grievance, and use it to rise to power.
Yeah.
They stoke people's anger and use that influence to rise to power. They bring up maddening rhetorics. These people are not for us. They are not working for us. Government is not for us. There are some sections. They are technically against us. Let us take power back.
So, but we say that is wrong. Like trying to fight against those systems that have become dogmatic. Is that wrong?
It's not wrong. It's not wrong.
Yeah. So technically, populism is on the right side, trying to fight against those dogmatic systems.
Yes.
But it seems to be they seem to be against.
No, I'm reserved.
All right.
I'm reserved in the sense that when, especially humans have a tendency to extremes. Like we say we are fighting against dogmatic system, fighting against inequality, fighting against abuse of power.
Yeah.
But then when you have a candidate that becomes probably the president, and this person does not have the right fundamentals, and we're going to talk about one of them, Javier Milei was an economist. He has the right fundamentals.
Yeah.
So I can trust a Javier Milei personality to lead my country. But I cannot trust a Trump personality to lead my country.
But Trump has also been in the business world for decades, almost 2 decades. He's a billionaire. He has grown the assets that his father left under his care. So we need to say at least there's some level of traction that he has. Some people say that he went bankrupt 6 times and all of that. But I think
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he went bankrupt 6 times. But he's still at the end of the day, he's still one of the most successful people the United States have ever produced.
Well, yes, true. But why I mentioned Javier Milei is that, as I mentioned, he's an economist. So when he speaks about the economy and speaks about things that need to happen, I can say that, he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But when somebody that doesn't really know that much about the economy starts whipping up, for example, Trump has been speaking about the Panama Canal, speaking about how they want to annex Greenland, speaking about Mexico. I'm kind of looking at, I'm like, you shouldn't be doing all this. If he gets into power, he might not do a quarter of what he's talking about here.
Yeah.
But just the fact that he's creating the avenue for that, creates a gap for somebody in the future to actually do all those things.
Yeah.
So that's my problem.
The thing with populism also is it starts out as a good intention, technically, but there's a thin line when you ride that populistic wave into authoritarianism.
True.
When you have the message of an us versus them, you have the elites on one end and you have the people on one end, and you hand over power to someone, and this person fights on behalf of the people. The people are a mob. They want to see this elite hot. and I would say we have these, as humans, we have these basic instincts to see people pay for their crimes.
Yes, justice.
Their perceived crimes. Some people, in fact, majority don't even care about the rule of law unless they are strong institutions.
Yeah.
If there are no strong institutions, populist governments, when they get into power, they also eventually become the elites. Yeah, and then they use this power for themselves.
Yeah.
So imagine they had dismantled those institutions. So what guardrails are there to stop them from going overboard?
But then the issue or the dilemma is how then can you address those systems other than a populist sort of intervention? Right, because those systems have been there for decades, for years. They have become dogma. They have become the way of life.
Yeah.
Especially you got Nigeria, for example. The way corruption has been normalized within the political sphere. It takes someone from the outside that is willing to, like Javier Milei would say, use a chainsaw to cut it from the roots. Right. So I'm just trying to find the balance between, like you said, like Loretta said, trying to avoid the extremes, but also trying to be radical enough to actually have an impact, because it requires some level of radicalism.
Yes, it does. But I would say that, like, a way I think populism can work is when, even though the movement has this, we need to dismantle all the institutions should not be touched. You might replace certain people. You can't replace all of them. It's not possible. You know, like Trump has appointed Elon Musk and Vivek to dodge.
Yeah.
Let's see what they are going to do. It's difficult. So sometimes, like, you create problems for yourself unintentionally. You can replace certain top people, but trying to, like, dismantle the whole system, you're going to now leave your success or even bigger problems that you met. So to be a point of, like, what did Trump even do? So my point is, like, you are a populist candidate. We know that here. You can make your reforms without dismantling all the systems. So leave the systems that, you know, guarantee individual rights, that guarantee that everybody, you know, can come together towards a shared purpose. Now you can always, Trump showed us that you can always change judges. During his term, he changed more judges than most other presidents did during their own maybe 80th and all. You can change the judges, like, you've not dismantled the court system. The court system is still running, but you change the people involved. So you can see, like, how you can do some of those things. So I'm against totally scrapping, or, like, say for example the educational sector they're talking about. How would you say you are going to totally scrap out education and as a secretarial position? That doesn't sound right to me personally. So it just shows me that, like, you're an extremist.
But and when populist governments come into play, you know, they usually ride on charismatic individuals. That have very simple message. For Donald Trump, when he came in 2016,
MAGA,
it was "Make America Great Again" and "Drain the Swamp." Very simple. For Javier Milei, he brought out a chainsaw. Said he was going to cut down everything. I remember there was a particular video where he had stickers of names of ministries, and he was ripping them out from the board. Ministry of Gender Diversity, so out. Ministry of Education, out. I think it was saying afuera. It's not right. Out.
Bueno, lo primero que tenemos que entender es que el Estado no es la solución. El Estado es el problema. Ustedes, si se fijan acá, tienen la gran raviolada que es el Estado, el gran curro y la fuente de la decadencia argentina, que es el Estado. Esta es la foto del Estado que tenemos hoy. Ministerio de Turismo y Deporte, afuera. Ministerio de Cultura, afuera. Ministerio de Ambiente y Desarrollo Sostenible, afuera. Ministerio de las Mujeres y Género y Diversidad, afuera. Ministerio de Obras Públicas, afuera. Aunque te resistas. Vamos a seguir por acá. Ministerio de Ciencia y Tecnología e Innovación. Algo bien del sector privado. Nada bueno salió del sector público. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Trabajo, Empleo y Seguridad Social. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Educación. Adoctrinamiento. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Transporte. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Salud. ¡Afuera! Ministerio de Desarrollo Social. ¡Afuera! ¿Cómo queda el Estado? Ministerio de Capital Humano, Ministerio de Infraestructura, Ministerio de Economía, Ministerio de Justicia, Ministerio de Seguridad, Ministerio de Defensa, Ministerio de Relaciones Exteriores y Ministerio del Interior. Se acabó el curro de la política. ¡Viva la libertad, carajo!
For Boris Johnson, when he was advocating for the Brexit, he wanted an out. Said the British people were not getting a fair deal. While remaining in the EU, they need to stand on their own. And got majority of the votes. Peter Obi also has a similar message. He's saying that the government is wasteful. They are not taking care of the people. They are spending anyhow, and our path to production is fraught with so many inefficiencies. He said, according to him,
from consumption to production.
That was his main main message.
What I've come to plead with Nigeria, and what I'm saying to Nigeria, I have a simple thing that I'm requesting. My job and what I want to do is to take Nigeria from consumption to production.
So when you have those simple ideas, yes, it sounds simple, they sound doable.
Yeah.
But when you get into power and get into government, government has a lot of bureaucracies.
Yeah.
Your ideas cannot simply translate to
action
immediately.
Yeah.
You have to have, you have to, technically, you want to break down some institution.
Yeah.
But to translate your idea to something that works, you have to also build institutions. There are technical frameworks that you need to put into play. You cannot do things haphazardly. You have to do things by the rule of law. You have to strengthen some government institutions, maybe not all, the ones that you need to effect your plan and whatever your policies.
Yeah.
You have to strengthen them. You have to put in technical. These things are
very true.
technical.
Very true.
And I have to add something to what he said. Strengthening institutions. For example, when Javier Milei was contesting for presidency, one of the issues with Argentina was they had high inflation, they had very bad fiscal deficits, and let me just give you statistics. Like at the time he was becoming president, they were owing IMF $40 billion, and they had just $3 billion in foreign reserves. So that was the situation. So now he's a populist candidate and he's an economist.
Negative 3 billion.
Negative 3 billion.
Yeah.
So now, if he came into power, so as an economist, he was able to, stem some of those things, cut excessive government spending, merge some government departments, and then sign deals. Although when he was contesting, he was making rhetoric against China, but he had to sign a deal with China for currency swaps to reduce the pressure of them like getting foreign exchange. Like he's in talks with the OECD to join, and then the group, South American group, they have something like Agora, so they're planning to have these major trade conversations with the EU. So he's doing all of those things, and they seem to be working. But now, imagine if he came and he just started like scattering everything. So another thing that he did was to strengthen their central bank to ensure that like he could not just come and just ask them to print money, because that's what Buhari did in Nigeria. So like building stronger institutions actually builds countries instead of dismantling them.
So I think the comprehensive message you guys are passing is that sometimes the populist framework or framing of their message may be too simplistic.
Yes.
Right. But then when it comes to actually doing it, in reality, it tends to be much more comprehensive, much more broader, much more technical,
much more complicated than people realize.
Than when they get there.
I think because